G'day trendsetters, it's time for another episode of Ask the Gravel Cyclist Crew a Question. This question comes to us from Steve of Santa Cruz in California. He writes, "Hi John, love your channel and the gravel race reviews. I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, do you have a training plan you follow for your gravel racing, or is it mostly group road rides and how you feel?" So to answer that, Steve, no, I have no training plan. I do ride by feel. I don't use a power meter or anything like that. I do have a heart rate monitor, but I never look at it. I just record the data. I mostly ride with a couple of mates and generally smaller group rides. We'll do intervals and attack each other, do say hard rotation, that kind of thing. That happens maybe a couple of times a week. And I like to do a lot of long rides on the weekends, etc. on my gravel bikes when time allows. Second question, for the gravel races, do you prefer the 650B or 700C wheel size? Well, Steve, I've only been riding 650B in training. I've always used 700C in the races, but I do plan to try some races with 650B, probably in 2018, considering 2017 is starting to kind of draw to a close for a lot of events that are happening around. But thanks for your question. Carlos of Chattanooga, Tennessee has written in, "What effect on handling and ride quality does fitting 650B wheels and tyres, like those ones right there, the Boyjo Cassie wheel set, have on a bike which normally comes with 700C wheels and tyres, assuming they fit?" Good question, Carlos. I've actually been riding the 650B wheel size for quite some time on the Orbea Terra gravel bike. That's a bike I hope to finally have the review out one of these days, but just in terms of the positives, the 650B, it's like a really nimble wheel set. It's a lot of fun to ride, and it's very maneuverable, say in tight places. It won't always be something I'd use on every gravel ride, for example, but if there's some tricky terrain, say if I had to incorporate some single track, I'd definitely use it there. And if there's some maybe some rocky terrain, it's often nice to have a smaller wheel size to kind of pick your way through some of those, say, gnarly chunks of gravel. The negative with the smaller wheel size is it doesn't roll over, say, bigger bumps as well. The 700C or 29er size definitely steamrolls a lot better. But again, you'll have to be careful with 650B and particularly wider tyres in a bike that was designed for 700C, because those wider tyres may or may not fit. But thanks for the question. This question comes to us from Mario out of Italy. His question is, does it make sense to have a road bike and a gravel bike and alternate them depending on the route? Mario, if you've got room in your car to carry two bikes or somewhere swapping out bikes during a route, sure, why not? I've ridden in Tuscany and, oh my God, it's amazing. I rode a road bike actually with 700C by 28mm tyres. I was there for the La Roica event, and that was perfectly hard-packed gravel, well, most of the route. There was some sketchy stuff, but again, if you've got room for two bikes, sure, bring both. There's no rules in gravel, so anything goes, doesn't really matter. But honestly, a gravel bike would be the preferred bike for all-round gravel riding with, say, at least a 35mm tyre if you want to have an extra bit of comfort during your rides. Thanks for your question. Scott of Grafton in New South Wales, that's in Australia, trendsetters, he's written in, "G'day, love your riding. I love riding gravel here in Grafton, and I'm very lucky to have hundreds, if not thousands of kilometres of gravel roads. The bane of my existence is the dreaded corrugation. That's also known as washboard. Due to the high rainfall and poor maintenance we have on these roads, there is heaps of this corrugation. So do you suffer this problem in the United States, or is it mostly an Aussie problem? Any tips on riding these corrugations?" So Scott, this conundrum is worldwide. There's even corrugations and washboard in South Africa. It's very prevalent in the United States, particularly in the area I live and ride in when it gets very dry. So the only thing you really can do, well, if you ride flat out, you can kind of equalise, you just kind of skip across the corrugations, but you have to be doing about 40k an hour or 25 mile an hour, and that kind of hurts a lot, especially when you're skipping along. Not a lot of fun. The other thing is bigger tyres. I mean, say 1.8, which is about a 45, that would help mitigate some of the pounding from the corrugations at a lower pressure, maybe 25 psi. That's going to depend on your body weight, of course. Now, some of the suspension gadgets I've seen out there, like forks and stems, they have no effect on corrugation, so don't even think about that. Those items can simply not rebound fast enough to deal with the harshness that is washboarded and corrugated roads, I should say. So bigger tyres, lower pressure are the answer. Thanks for your question, Scott, and enjoy the riding in Grafton. Kevin of Boston, Massachusetts has written into us, "Hey GC crew, I've noticed that in videos and images, you all seem to have coloured liquids in your bottles. What do you eat and drink on your rides typically? Are there any secret specials like tea or pickle juice?" Kevin, no, nothing rocket science, mate. We use Goo's hydration products almost exclusively, so those funky colours you might be seeing are different flavours, watermelon, the tea flavouring, those sorts of things. Also we use Goo gels and the Goo blocks. In terms of solid food, I like to use Lara bars. Those are fantastic. They've got a lot of calories in a very small package. And any special stuff, say if I'm on some long ride and I'm feeling a bit dodgy and I need a pick-me-up, I'll often imbibe in a delicious beer of some kind. Often in these remote stations, gas stations, you don't really have good choices of beers, so you're going to have to forgo the craft beer selection and go with something that's akin to a table beer, as we like to call them things around here. Maybe an Ice House or a Bud Light or something like that. But when you're feeling pretty miserable, it's hot out, anything that's a beer, any kind of beer tastes amazing. So hope that answers your question. Thank you very much.
Traveling in a fried out combi,